Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We're going to get started in just a second. Let us know where you are coming in from. We want to see you.
Hello, hello. Is that a Zoom or
Bill from Boston. We've got
okay,
St.
Boise,
Pete.
Idaho, Manchac, Texas?
Oh, Manchac.
Yeah,
I
we
grew
love
up.
Manchac.
I love Manchac. I grew up just south of Manchac in Buda, Texas. Little
Nice.
Buda, Texas. I love Manchac.
Okay, wait, we're losing
Sorry.
the other people
Yes.
though.
Okay.
We love everyone else too. Hillsboro, Oregon, Leelanau, Woodstock. Oh, it's going too fast.
It's going
Salem,
exactly as fast as it
Portland.
should.
It's yep. Welcome everyone. Welcome to a very special Friday. What's the plan?
Monday, Friday. What's the plan?
Monday, Friday, what's the plan? And actually before we forget this, we are also going to be
Oh, yes.
doing what's the plan on Friday next week. So if you've got this on your calendar for the regular time, please just note it's going to be Friday at 3 p.m. next week too. Um, let's see, Bull City Indivisible. Oh, okay, I love your Instagram. Minneapolis Indivisible on the Ridge Lake, Palm Beach County, San Jose. Oh my goodness, Elk Grove Township, Richmond, Virginia, Cincinnati, Denver, Colorado, Tucson, St. Paul, all over.
Thanks everybody for putting up with the schedule changes. If you didn't know this about me and Leah, week to week we're like, what is happening next week? Are our schedules together? Is there, I don't know, Yom Kippur maybe on Thursday? And then we figure it out, and then we have to switch things. Thanks for putting up with us. Next Friday, there's travel issues. That's why we're not doing it. So sorry, but thanks for putting up. All of these are always recorded, so we will send them out. But I know people like to be here as part of the live discussion, so we try to get that message out as quickly as possible because we like the live discussion too.
That's great.
Leah,
Let's
dive into it. We got a big old what's the plan to get into. Um, Leah, intros. I'm Ezra.
I'm Leah.
Oh, great. We're in the right place. We are the married co-executive directors of Indivisible. You have found us here in our house, and you are part of a mass movement to save American democracy and push back against the authoritarian over overreach that we're seeing from this current regime. We talk a lot about building power here. The word power sometimes in these circles takes on a mystical flavor, I would say. I like to simplify it to steal from our former policy lead, Angel Badilla. He said, I loved it. Power is nothing more than the ability to make someone or some institution do something they wouldn't otherwise do. And that's what we're doing. We're building power to make people and institutions do stuff they wouldn't otherwise do. Leah, let's talk about why we are at this moment in time in these calls having discussion. What are we doing here? How they work?
Okay, everyone, welcome. This is What's the Plan? This is where we grapple with whatever is happening in the world. What is our strategy? How does it fit in with everything that indivisibles are doing all over the country? It's going to be mostly Q&A. We'll have a little opening monologue. If you have a question for us, put it in the Q&A box at the bottom of your toolbar. If you want to upvote questions, we're going to take mostly the ones that get the top upvotes. So use your little thumbs up icon to vote for the ones that you want to see answered. If you're with an Indivisible group, indicate that in your question. We love to make sure that we're answering questions from the practitioners and organizers on the ground. This is going to be recorded. The recording will be sent out to everybody who joined. If there are going to be links that we pop in the chat for action items, resources, news articles, all the stuff that we reference is going to be sent out in the ultimate email. So if you miss it because the chat is going too fast, that has happened in the past, do not worry, it will come to you in the follow-up email. And finally, we love the chat box. The chat box is amazing. We really enjoy just trying to scan it as we go. And also, anytime we got an open live conversation, we want to just recognize we're talking about really hard stuff. It can be emotional. It can be really personal for folks. We want to make sure that we keep the chat box supportive and constructive. We are all in this fight together. We are all taking on the authoritarians and building a better and more just democracy together. And so we're going to be respectful and caring to each other.
And one thing that we do is we make indivisible groups happen. That is how this works. Lee and I are here talking to y'all, but this is a conversation because we are not the leaders of the indivisible movement. The leaders of the indivisible movement are all around the country. In fact, there are about 2,200 local indivisible groups spread out about just every single congressional district, every single state, multiple countries. And that is how we do that thing that I mentioned earlier, build power, because we are in a constitutional republic. And unless you are super rich or super famous, you as an individual probably don't have much power. But you as a group of organized individuals, That's what the powers that be are scared about. They are scared about you peacefully, powerfully organizing yourselves together. So we like to celebrate new indivisible groups who join the movement. And it happens to be the case that they join every single day. We see new indivisible groups.
And in fact, I think September was the largest
Yes.
new group formation since January of this year. So it's not slowing down, y'all. It's picking up, if anything.
That's right.
So
That is exactly right. And that's what we like to see because we have in our head, we've covered it before. Erica Chenoweth came earlier to talk about the 3.5% number, 3.5% of the population organizing to push back against authoritarian overreach. We need people to be part of that 3.5%. And you do that not just by signing people onto some email list and asking them for money. You do that by convincing people you got power, use it, organize. And we do that through indivisible groups. So let me welcome 10 new indivisible groups. This is a small subset of those that joined in the last week, but give them some love in the chat, y'all. Welcome them. Give them your emojis. We need them, and they're welcome. And we need their creativity, their energy, their passion. Nevea from sorry if I'm mispronouncing names too. Indivisible, Panama City, Florida. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Stephanie Suland in Suland Indivisible in Sutherland, Iowa. Welcome. Julie with Coeur d'Alene. Oh gosh, is that Coeur d'Alene? Coeur d'Alene? You're gonna correct me. In Idaho. Welcome, Coeur d'Alene Indivisible in Idaho. Joan from Indivisible South Hadley in Massachusetts. Beth, Indivisible Beaver Island in Michigan. Prashant from Indivisible St. Lawrence County in Potsdam, New York. Christy, Indivisible Paris, Texas. We got Paris, Texas on the map. Actually, there is an Indivisible Paris, France, too. We've got Jenny from Indivisible Randolph in Randolph, Vermont. Jolene from Orca's Indivisible in East Sound, Washington. Orca's, and apparently there's Orca Island. I looked it up. It's great. I love it. Justice from Shawano Indivisible in Shawano, Wisconsin. And Leah, do you want to name? We got an international, not international, but non-state.
Maya with Indivisible St. Croix in Christiansted, Virgin Islands.
Virgin Islands.
Virgin Islands.
We would love to see some democratic reforms to actually give the Virgin Islands some real representation in Congress. Once we retake power, reforming our democratic institutions so they do not just answer to where wealth is currently concentrated and where power is currently concentrated, but actually represent the people of this country. Right. Top of our list. Welcome to the movement, y'all. Welcome to the movement. You are joining at the perfect time because the perfect time is whenever you join. We want you here. And we've got some big news for this movement that is growing. We've been talking about this little thing we got going on, right? No Kings, I believe, is coming up. No Kings 2 on October 18th. What's happening with that?
Well, y'all, I am very excited to announce that this week we passed the total number of events that were registered in June for No Kings. There are already 2,200 No Kings events on the maps with almost 3 weeks left, 2 weeks left to go. This is shaping up to be the largest in spread protest in modern American history. Let's make it the largest protest in American history. What we are asking y'all is no pedal, or all pedal, no brake. Take advantage of the news cycle, recruit more people, register your event. If you do not have a No Kings event within 30 minutes to an hour of where you live, there is still time. You've got 2 weeks. Get one on the map. We know that there's going to be more popping up, and then recruit. We gotta build the buzz. We gotta make people understand that this is the place to be. We gotta get that FOMO going, right? So, do you know somebody with a following, a celebrity, a musician, a comedian, even just somebody who's respected in your community? Ask them directly. Help build the FOMO. Post to your social, record a video talking about how excited you are. Start telling people to put it on the calendar. Come up with a list of 10 people that you can personally invite to a sign-making party the night before. Think about what creative tactics you or your Indivisible group can use to get the word out, because we think that this could be a defining moment, and we got to make it that way. It's not going to happen on its own.
That's right. The way No Kings 1 became one of the largest protests in American history was not because there was some big fancy ad campaign. It was because people all across the country said, oh, we got to do this. We got to be out there. People were asking, what's FOMO? FOMO is fear of missing out. We want people to be like,
where were you?
Where were you? We were all there. And we want people excited. As Donald Trump is coming after comedians, as he's saber rattling at universities, as he's promising to crack down on his opponents, where were you? What was it that you were doing? You were getting ready to show up in the biggest protest in American history in defense of First Amendment rights. That's the place to be. So we all have a role in building that FOMO, that fear of missing out. I've had some people say, I'm traveling. I'm sorry, I'm going to be in the UK. I'm like, oh, good news. There's going to be a one.
There's gonna be
There are going to be protests in the UK. You can join it there. And they're excited. Okay. Leah, that good on No Kings. We have
Mhm.
marching orders on No Kings. I have been tapped to talk a little bit about the issue of the day, of the week, of possibly the month. We'll see how it goes. This shutdown that Republicans have driven us in. So I'm going to cover shutdown briefly. We can get into more specifics if y'all have got questions. Reminder, put your questions, vote for them in the chat. But the federal government is shut down. The Republicans have declined to negotiate with Democrats at all. They have said, take it or leave it. And the Democrats have said, we will leave it. They have said, we will not just go along with the Republican demands. A reminder of what Democrats are saying right now. What is the line in the sand they have? They are saying, we will not vote for a Republican funding bill that continues to raise the cost of healthcare, throw Americans off of their health insurance, close rural hospitals, and give Donald Trump a blank check where he can do whatever the hell he wants with the federal budget. So they are demanding the ACA tax credits extend permanently. They are demanding restoration of Medicaid cuts, and they are demanding what is known, this gets technical, rescission and impoundment language. So what Donald Trump has been doing to basically ignore what Congress says he should spend on, the Dems are demanding, nah, a deal is a deal. If we agree to anything, what we agree to is actually law and actually has to be implemented. Those are the demands. Those demands pull through the roof. Democrats like them, independents like them, non-wacko MAGA Republicans like it. Even MAGA Republicans, I saw a poll today, 57% of MAGA Republicans say, oh yeah, we should extend the ACA tax credits. These demands are ridiculously popular, and the polling right now on the shutdown is therefore pretty damn good for us. A clear majority of people are blaming Trump and Republicans for shutting down the government, as they should. I want to talk about where the dim position is right now. We're talking to a lot of folks on the inside. We're talking to folks on the outside. Dims are generally holding strong. This all comes down to the Senate. If the Senate Dims cave, as they did in March, game over. We lose. So our job is to keep the Dim caucus together. There are 3 Democrats who I want to call out by name who have turncoat. They have gone over to the Republican side. Those are the following. Angus King in Maine has caved. Cortez Masto in Nevada has caved, and surprising no one, John Fetterman from Pennsylvania has caved. Now, if it's only those 3 that decline to go along with the position, that sucks, but it's okay. We maintain our power. We're able to maintain the position. The Republicans are going to try to peel off 7 or 8. That's how many they're going to need to get this through, to break the Democratic opposition. And our job is to hold them together. Now, I wanted to talk about this. A journalist was asking me earlier today about, hey, so what do you think about the Dem opposition? Are they actually fighting back? Is it any different? And I told him, I'm going to try this on you and see if this resonates. The way I see it over the course of the last 10 months, what we see are 3 stages of Democratic defiance. Stage 1 is the stage we were in from roughly November of the election until February, when we started seeing town halls. And stage 1 of Democratic defiance was telling the grassroots, telling rank and file Dems who oppose Trump's regime to fuck off. It was, you don't understand it. We've got to show we're reasonable. There's not going to be any resistance. We should just go along and show how reasonable we are and cut some deals with the regime, because that's the path forward. That was stage 1. And we were there for several months. As the grassroots energy grew, as people came out, Leah, we saw them at town halls in February. We saw them at empty chair town halls in March. People were showing up because they were pissed off both at the regime, but also at the feckless Democratic opposition out there. That was stage 1.
Volume.
Oh, sorry.
Let's try and maintain a level.
Yeah. I get energized by this.
Saying that there's just a little less shouting.
Okay,
But keep
less
going,
shouting. Okay,
keep going.
okay.
The passion
We'll
is
be a little
good.
bit more measured. Okay, stage 2, and this is improvement. Don't get me wrong. Stage 2 was performative resistance. A lot of these folks who before said, go away, we're not going to do that, suddenly saw the numbers of people who were out at February town halls, March empty chair town halls, April hands-off events, no King's Day with 6 million people out. And they said, oh shit, the people aren't with me on this. I got to do something to show them that I'm also with the resistance. And so they engage in some performative, might call it bullshit, but performative resistance, strongly worded letters, big time speeches, cursing more often. Literally, there was more cursing going on to demonstrate they were on side. It's an improvement over where they were before. And that's good, right? They're at least moving in the right direction. It's also not enough. And stage 3 is where we want the Democrats. Stage 3 is a unified opposition party that actually uses their leverage to fight back. That's stage 3. And the journalist was asking me basically, are we in stage 3 now? Do we have a unified opposition party? And I said, hey, we might. This is different than performative resistance. The Democrats just had their 3rd vote on this Republican CR bill, and it's only those 3 Senate Dems who voted with the Republicans. We have held strong. We are ending this week refusing to give in to the Republicans. That looks pretty damn good to me, y'all. And I have plenty of critiques of the Dems. I have plenty of critiques of the demands they've made over time. I have plenty of critiques of messaging that they use. And also, we have to welcome leaders on this journey from stage 1 to stage 3. And when they show signs that they are in stage 3, our job on the outside is to say, okay, we're on the same team. Let's back them up. What can we do to back them up? So this is where we get to actually, what's the plan, Leah? We got to show them that we're behind them. We've got to show them that we're behind them. So calls, yes, calls matter. Leah, we were both congressional staffers. What is your experience when something big is going down in Congress? What does it feel like when calls start streaming in?
It feels like the office is like a little under assault. It's like the phone is constantly ringing. You can't focus on other things. I remember like I would hang up the phone and like try to switch lines, and there would already be another caller coming in, and it was like, oh gosh, we got to do something.
Yeah. There's a psychological impact of that. I remember being in it. It was during a healthcare fight where we were trying to pass the Affordable Care Act, and the Republicans were just driving tons of calls to try to oppose the bill. And you would hang up one call, and immediately the phone line would fill up with another. There were like 10 lines. It would be fill up, fill up, fill up. That has an effect of feeling like the world is watching. Now imagine you're a Democratic senator who's trying to decide whether or not to join Cortez Masto and King and Fetterman, but your office, minute after minute after minute, is being barraged with calls of people saying, thank you so much for holding strong. Thank you for fighting. We have your back. It's going to change how they view the current political situation. The other thing is calls are nice. Calls are good. Calls are also private. No member of Congress has to reveal how many calls they got. So this is where the other tactic comes in. In district, in state events. We held our kickoff call a couple days ago with a lot of partners. And one of the asks is tomorrow on Saturday, get together a group of people to make a big show of either supporting your Democratic senator who is standing strong, calling out one of those 3 Democratic senators if they represent you for caving, and putting pressure on Republicans who are continuing this shutdown in order to attack your health care. In-person, visible events with pictures and videos, that's gold. That is invaluable. And we will take that and share it to our allies on the Hill so they can make the argument, look, the people are with us. You know who's not showing up in the streets right now? Republican voters who want their health care cut. Republican voters aren't showing up in mass to back the Republican position right now. They don't like the Republican position right now. We have the best argument. We are on the right side of history. The people are with us, but we've got to not allow Democrats to get squishy. They've recently found their spines, y'all. We need to make sure that they stay stiff, that they stay strong, they don't give up. And then we need to make clear that we're going to show up on October 18th with the largest peaceful protest in American history, backing them up. The cavalry's coming in. They've got to hold out at least until the cavalry comes in. Okay, Leah, that's State Play. Anything we missed that we should cover?
It's great.
Okay, 20 minutes in. That was a bit long. I'm sorry, y'all. Leah, you take some of the questions that were coming up.
Go to the questions.
And please vote. We are going forward. Oh, I missed the questions. Here we go. Okay, first question comes from Deborah. Do you think The military will follow orders if they are not constitutional. Are the generals on our side? Deb from South County Resistance in Wakefield, Rhode Island.
Yeah, this is a really interesting question coming this week when Pete Hegseth hauled every general at every command across the world to Washington, well, to the Pentagon, to give the most foul and vile and awful pep talk I've ever seen in, modern American history. I don't know who watched this. If you wanna watch something that's both every part of it is bad. I personally am struck by how much chutzpah you would need to have as Pete Hegseth, a guy who is literally the most unqualified Secretary of Defense of all time, to be lecturing professionals who have, risen through the ranks about being qualified, about DEI, about women, all of sorry, this is just me getting on my soapbox before I answer the question.
Stay on it.
But I think one thing that's important to note is, if you watch how the audience is reacting, that is a lot of professionals who are not at all amused to be getting a MAGA diatribe directed at them, right? The principles of civilian control and nonpartisanship run pretty deep in the military. There's, we're not going to get into everyone's thoughts about the role of the United States military and everything, but there's a lot of people in there who really understand in a very intense and real way why it's important to have, for example, real and meaningful DEI protections, why it's important to have real and meaningful controls for toxic and abusive behavior, stuff like that. So, and who are just going to not be amused because they're like actual humans who do real jobs, to be like hauled to Washington so that somebody can talk at you for 2 hours about like stuff that they saw on Fox News. So, all which is to say, I do not think that I do not think the Republicans' capital with the like officers in the military is like higher this week than it was last week. Now, with all of that said, again, I think there's an important thing in here, which is about like if it's unconstitutional, and that takes us to a different problem, which is who ultimately decides what's unconstitutional right now? The Supreme Court. And we are seeing evidence over and over and over again that the Supreme Court is not behaving like any kind of meaningful check on the power of the Trump administration in the vast majority of contexts where it would matter. And so I think you're asking kind of like a bigger picture question, which is sort of like what resistance would Trump meet as he attempts to escalate his attempts to deploy the military domestically against, blue cities, against Americans. And I think there's probably a great deal of consternation within the military, people who are trying to figure out how to soften what is happening, how to kind of like avert situations that they have never trained for, never wanted to be put into that position, et cetera. I also think it's, fundamentally one of many places where what matters and what decisions are made inside of any kind of military bureaucracy are going to be shaped very heavily by the context of what happens outside. And that is what our organizing has the ability to affect.
Yep. What can we do? We can organize, because
Yeah.
the Supreme Court is a political institution, and it is looking around to see where its support is and where the regime is going as well.
Yep.
Elsie asks from Connecticut River Huddle Indivisible. Trump is unwell. Trump has nuclear codes, and most of us would be afraid to let him have car keys. We must call out his mental decline and demand a real medical exam. One of the pillars he stands on is masculinity and strength. We must show him as weak and failing, make him defend his mental health. Republicans will not invoke the 25th or impeach him. Should we have a mass action call to press our legislators to demand a mental health check? Some outcomes: increase press attention, make him defend his mental health, call attention to who is really running the country, expose his weakness. Did we see the Grim Reaper video? I did. It was ridiculous. He is unhinged and it's getting worse. P.S. A lot of us are with no kings and shutdown, so time for this would be afterwards.
Thank
Indeed.
you. That's very
That is
thoughtful
nice
of
to
you.
acknowledge that, because there is a lot going on right now with the shutdown and the largest protest in modern American history that we're putting on. Leah, thoughts on Trump's mental
Yeah.
illness and how we should be approaching it?
I think, look, I guess I would say, I think this is a very important, I think this is an important part of a broader messaging story that we are telling about how Donald Trump is out of control. He's unaccountable. He's making, ideologically and just generally terrible decisions left and right. That is kind of the idea of the No Kings frame, is that it can hold both kind of like the Mad King story and the, in hoc to billionaires and kleptocrats story at the same time. And so I think this is absolutely like an angle that folks should continue to press on as we go forward. I am not sure I would make it necessarily the center of the story, as like if I have kind of one line to land with people, I want it to be either related to corruption or the way this is hurting and like threatening you personally. So it's kind of like Trump is like clearly deteriorating, and his decisions are affecting you. How, like that is, I guess, is my immediate instinct. But Ezra, like this is, I mean, let's work through this in real time.
Let's work through this in real time. So I find appealing the basic argument is Trump is doing a lot of weird shit instead of actually helping you at all. And that's like your frame that you're saying here. I also
Yeah.
think, Leah, you did what your grad's thesis on Otpor and the taking down of Slobodan Milosevic. One of the key lessons, one of the tactical approaches of Otpor was laftivism, right? It was this understanding that authoritarians love to be hated. They love to be feared. They really don't like to be ridiculed. They don't like to look weak. Where is there some place to go here with Trump where yes, you're focusing on he is not helping folks out, he is causing harm, but it's not because he's strong or scary. It's because he's a pathetic, unpopular, lame duck president who is lashing out
And believing his own AI videos.
and
Yeah.
believing his own AI videos. Oh, somebody just said I look like a young Paul Rudd. I think I look like an
Nice.
old Paul Rudd at best, even though he's much older than me.
Reverse
He
ages.
never ages. Do you agree with that, Leah? Is there a laftivism angle?
I think that's a really valid point, right? It's part of an overarching story in which we're actually trying to not say, oh, they're all powerful, they're able to do whatever they want, this is a very intimidating dictator. It's actually, this is like they're malevolent, they're sinister, they're doing a bunch of really, really terrible stuff. And also at the top is a clown show, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
I think there's room for, I guarantee you there are going to be a lot of funny signs at
Yeah.
No Kings, and I'm looking forward to them. Okay, Robert asks, Robert from CBFD Indivisible in San Diego, this regime has made a mafia-style offer to 9 universities, offering them the most favored university status, as I called it, if they pledge fealty to Trump and cronies. Will Indivisible coordinate a campaign in response to this reprehensible infringement on academic excellence and freedom? God, I hope we can do this. I hope we can do this. Can I just say, and it my only concern is capacity. Can I be honest? My only concern, like because we've got the shutdown going on, because we're preparing for the largest protest in modern American history, and because we're preparing for the elections in November, a month away in Virginia, in California, in Pennsylvania, in New Jersey, that's the only challenge. But what we saw from Disney is something very clear. A lot of institutions would like to quietly capitulate. The easiest, like their lives would be easier if they can just get Trump off their backs, do what he wants, and then move on. And the only thing that's going to stop them is if they can't quietly do that. If they have to worry that there's going to be countervailing force, that they will suffer reputational harm if they do that. I don't know a way to make clear to them that they suffer reputational harm than what we all did with Disney. Make very clear we're watching, we are angry, and we will not be giving if we're alums. We will not be matriculating if we've applied. We will not be speaking positively of you. There is something that happens if you capitulate to this regime. So I'm very on board with immediate pushback against this, and if I would like to elevate this. What I would say is I would like to elevate efforts around this, and I can't commit yet to capacity.
So here's what I'd say. I don't know if we will necessarily hold that whatever of this campaign manifests, but I'm confident that a thing will be getting up and running. The other thing though I would say is if you're an alumni of any of these schools, if you are in relationship with anyone in any of these schools, you're going to speak at a conference, you're going to, you're editing a paper for them. If you're in higher education, do not wait for us, right? Okay. Like figure out, how do you apply your leverage right now? If you're an alumni of one of those schools, you call the alumni office and say, this is the last time I'm ever going to contribute or come to events if you sign this thing. And then you get everybody else in your network to do that too, right? You got your alumni listserv, start the conversation on the alumni listserv, ask if other people can join you, right? So this is the kind of thing where there will be organized efforts to push back, but the best way to influence a lot of these decision makers is if they're just getting it from all over the place and they're just kind of like, wow, there's just an overwhelming force of backlash everywhere that I turn. So do not feel like you need to wait for an organized campaign if you have a relationship here to start expressing your opinions.
I think that's right. And related to that, Leah, one thing that I think is ineffective is a big national campaign that is vaguely universities shouldn't do this. Because what that will allow individual universities is to escape blame.
Right.
So an ideal campaign is one that says, X university, we are all focusing on you, and it's a collection of donors and students and alums who are all paying attention to this and calling for certain action, but make it inescapable for them. They've got to respond to those demands. That kind of organizing best comes from people with connection to that specific university. Otherwise, they'll hide. They'll hide. Neela asks, regarding pillars of non-cooperation, what do you think about contacting our blue state officials who could take action on non-cooperation? For instance, controllers can slow the flow of blue state funds into federal coffers by conducting audits, asking for compliance. AGs and DAs can prosecute federal officials living in states who have violated state constitutions, etc. I'm pretty sure these state officials hear much less frequently from constituents than our reps in DC do, and they have a lot of power that can make a difference. Plus one, plus one, plus one, plus one, plus one. Neela, everything you just said, yes. Leah, do you want to talk a little bit about how we've been thinking about blue state defiance?
Yeah, absolutely. I know there are people on the call who have been part of Blue State Defiance campaigning throughout the Indivisible network. So one thing that we started to do earlier this year was ask folks in some blue states to come together, figure out whether there was a collective ask you could make, whether focused on the governor, the comptroller, the legislature around, how can you push blue states into defiance in relation to the federal government. I know Ezra and I both spoke with folks at a number of those convenings. We also have an ongoing Blue State Defiance page that outlines some of the possible asks you can make. One thing that I will say here is that I think anytime you're asking someone to go from being like fine to being a champion, it's hard because you're kind of saying, I want you to find your leverage and I might not know what it is, but go find it, right? So that works for people who are really, they're already with you and they want to figure it out. It does not work for people who are not already really trying to lean in and figure it out. So it helps to have really concrete and clear asks and say, that are verifiable. Like you will know if they've done this. You will not, you'll be able to hold them accountable for having done it. And then to get those asks echoed by as many people as possible. So what I would say is yes, 100% call, if all you can do is call and say, hey, I want you to stand up and use every tool in the toolbox, do that. That's great. But what's really, really helpful is identifying a couple of really discrete, specific asks with a broader set of people and pushing for those things together so that they really know that they're going to be held accountable, not just for kind of a general vibes-based opposition, but for whether they do those specific things.
And just to go back to the 3 stages of defiance, general vibes-based opposition is kind of the performative, bullshitty opposition space. You want, to Leah's point, specific leverage they have. I saw somebody in the chat mentioned anti-masking for ICE laws. You can do that at the state level. California has pushed this forward to demask ICE. There are 14 other Democratic trifecta states. Where are the demask ICE laws? Why aren't they there? Why aren't your legislators pushing them forward? Why aren't your governors signing them into law? Why isn't this a priority? They can do it tomorrow. Pass those damn laws. What's stopping you?
Yep.
And then you make it specific. Then they have to respond to why your state should be worse on this than California. Going on to Kay. Kay asks, hi, it's Kay with Forever Indivisible. Hey, Kay. Is there no national messaging campaign that will follow No Kings that we can get signage prepared for? We will look highly coordinated if we have nationwide messaging ready to go week after massive No Kings protests. Something simple. Also, do you feel okay promoting leavingmaga.org in our messaging?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, the big push that we're going to make, and I'm excited to say, I think we distributed 250,000 Know Your Rights cards already to the different No Kings venues. The big push we're making immediately after No Kings is around Know Your Rights. So we've got hundreds of thousands of Know Your Rights cards going out to all of the different protests. We're going to be asking people to give them out wherever they can. It's No Kings, Know Your Rights. I do want to say, we're not gonna roll out a totally separate messaging campaign immediately after No Kings. We're actually trying to stick with and build on the No Kings core branding, because what we're hearing from people is that it's resonating. It's resonating across a broad set of different stakeholder groups. It's working with our core base, but it's also working with people who maybe didn't show up for hands off in April. So we're actually trying to continue to deepen that. So anything else you would add, Ezra?
No, I think I just checked with the team. I think
Yeah.
we're over 1 million distributed.
Really?
I think we're on track to distribute like 2 million. Yeah, so
Yeah.
there are going to be a lot of cards out there.
All right, 2 million Know Your Rights cards, guys.
Cool. Leavingmaga.org. I haven't
I
seen
haven't
Leaving
checked it out.
Maga.
Yeah,
I assume it's something that like tries to convince people. I'm just guessing, convince people who maybe were part of MAGA or voted for Trump to leave. I think that's very important. I just want to be clear. We should be welcoming people who become alienated with this regime into our arms openly, because we are not going to win this just by organizing in the same spaces with everybody that agrees with us. So I don't know about that website specifically, but I like that overall orientation of meeting people where they are. Cynthia asks, I am concerned about Trump's NSPM 7 memo, which labels criticism or dissent as terroristic or a sign of enemies of the state. You and me both, Cynthia.
Yes. So this memo came out about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, I guess, as of now. And it is indicating it is a follow-on from kind of the Charlie Kirk assassination period, in which Trump, Stephen Miller, Vance were all really clear that they were taking this as their green light to go after dissent and First Amendment rights of all kinds. And it directs a set of things. I think the thing that I would want to stress for folks who are processing all the reporting on this is part of a broader pattern of how Trump and authoritarians work, right? They claim powers they don't have, and then they see who pushes back. Right? That is a core thing. And if no one pushes back, then bam, they have those powers, right? This is a wildly unconstitutional set of things. This is a completely blatant attack on the First Amendment that we're talking about in this presidential memorandum. And, they're testing if they can get away with it, right?
Yep.
That's what they do. They've done it on so many fronts. This is how they, bludgeoned the media companies into compliance. This is how they went after the law firms. This is how they went after universities. They are trying the anticipatory obedience playbook on the nonprofit sector, on civil society. They're seeing if they can just kind of steamroll forward and crush dissent. And it's our job to say, actually, we have rights. To say the best way that we continue to exercise our rights is to continue to exercise our rights. It is to assemble, to protest peacefully, nonviolently, joyfully, collectively, and in really big numbers that call that fundamental bluff. That is what we are doing here.
That's how we win. Can I just bring up something, Leah? Because you brought this up with me and I'm going to steal it. And I loved it. I loved it as a framework. You were hearing from one of these anti-authoritarian experts that we hear.
Oh, yeah.
And he was talking about how in an authoritarian regime, when you're pushing back, every day it can feel like you're losing. Every day, because they have power. They have real power to do harm. They are committing atrocities. They are doing damage to human beings every single day, and you can't stop all of it. And that can be very demobilizing. It can be depressing. It can make people feel like, what is it that we're actually accomplishing here? But for those who study anti-authoritarian movements around the world, here's how they judge the success of those movements. 1, are we more unified than we were before? 2, are we bigger than we were before? 3, are our tactics proliferating and diversifying? And 4, is support for the regime decreasing? Each one of those, you could check that box every single month. That doesn't mean damage isn't being done. That doesn't mean the authoritarian regime isn't a threat, but it does mean that our opposition is growing, is becoming more effective, and is on track to grow to the size it needs to be to protect this democracy. Responses to threats like this are the exact way that this resistance is able to build and grow in efficacy. Did I summarize that way? I really just stole it directly from you. Okay. My best ideas come from Leah, as everybody knows. Okay, Jenny asks, Jenny from Indivisible Wabash Valley in Terre Haute in Indiana. Why do Schumer and Jeffries not directly confront the lies Republicans are saying about the shutdown? They just revert to the same tired talking points that they are fighting for healthcare, but don't verbally confront the proposed CR is not. bipartisan, and that Republicans didn't even show up to negotiate, and that the threat of furlough/firing of the government workers has been part of the administration's plan all along and would have happened regardless of any shutdown. It seems like they are afraid to actually take on the Republicans in the media, and it makes them look weak, leading the Republicans' stance that Democrats are to blame for the shutdown, lending to the Republican stance the Democrats are to blame for the shutdown. Also, it's a good idea to email those who are voting no to thank them, and call/email the Dems voting yes to encourage them to rethink their votes. We can cover that last piece in a sec. Leah, thoughts on the messaging from Jeffries or Schumer? Or do you want me to take it?
I mean, I guess what I would say overall on this is we've got an ongoing I actually think that they have said some of those things. The basic challenge is that a shutdown is complicated and it's messy, and you kind of need like one or two sentences to break through, because people who are tuning in for the first time are not actually super interested in an extended history of like who negotiated with who and how any of this worked. You need one clear story about how this government's out of control. They'd rather shut down the government than give people health care. They are refusing to honor the deals that they've made in the past. And that is why we are where we are. You know, does that feel right?
Yeah, I think we need to hear. Can I say something in defense of Jeffries and Schumer, because it's so rare, and not just for some credibility. I personally called Schumer and told him that Indivisible was calling him to step down from leadership after he surrendered on the last vote. I have no problem pushing Jeffries and Schumer to be better leaders of the Democratic Party. Here's what I will say in this moment right now. We want a unified opposition party. The Democratic Party has picked this fight. Is it everything we would want? No. Will it protect democracy on its own? No. Is it a legitimate step forward that the Republicans don't want to give into? Yes. The measure of whether or not the Dems are doing a good job is, one, does the caucus stay unified? Two, do they fold at any point, give in at any point to these demands? And three, is the public on our side? Are we winning the national debate? I have my concerns about messaging. And also, we are on the same team running one play right now. There is a time for criticizing leadership. There is a time for criticizing strategy. But when you are in it, we are in cheerlead mode now. We are in cheerlead mode now, right? That is where we are. If they fail, fine. Plan A is we win. Plan B is we hold them accountable for losing and being bad leaders. I hope we stay on plan A. We want to win. I want to win. I want to celebrate Schumer and Jeffries for being successful leaders and then moving on to crush the Republicans in the next election. But right now, I don't like the criticism. I'm going to be honest. I want to run this play. I want to do our damnedest to unify and win. And then let's talk about what we do afterwards if that doesn't pan out. Ken, group leader at Caldwell's Indivisible. There are two critical gubernatorial elections this November, one in Virginia and one in New Jersey. Indivisible has been actively recruiting members to get involved with the Virginia elections by phone banking, etc. However, there doesn't appear to be any interest by Indivisible in the New Jersey election between Mikey Sherrill and the Trumper. The New Jersey election is very close and volatile, and support from Indivisible and its members would undoubtedly help assure Sherrill victory. Why is Indivisible silent on New Jersey? Can I be honest, Ken? It's frankly like it's not that we're supportive of Mikey Sherrill. We've talked with Mikey Sherrill's team. If our main concern was Gottheimer, who's a piece of shit Democrat from New Jersey, who's basically a Republican in sheep's clothing. But he didn't win. He beclowned himself. And Mikey Sherrill should be the governor of New Jersey. When the campaign got started, we thought there was no way in hell a Republican was going to win the New Jersey gubernatorial election. I think Mikey is still going to win the election. And also, I think it's closer than we would have thought. So if you've seen more action from us on Proposition 50 in California or on the Virginia elections, it's because the conventional wisdom and our political analysis as recently as a few weeks ago was those are the races we really need to win, and New Jersey is probably going to be less close. But I think you're pointing something real here, which is this election is going to be closer than we would like.
I'm just going to be super candid. At any moment, if there's like a question that's like, this thing is really important, why is Indivisible not running full program on it? The answer is because we just literally don't have enough people to do that well. It makes me sad. It makes you sad. It's really hard. And also, I think we headed into this cycle originally thinking we were going to do support in Virginia. Suddenly there's also California Prop 50.
Yeah.
Want to make sure that folks have support there. That's that's going to need help to get it over the finish line. I wish we had the people and the capacity for a full program in New Jersey too. I want to be real that we've got a lot of people who are pulling 70 to 80-hour weeks to pull off no kings right now, and they're going to roll right over into 2 ongoing electoral programs immediately after that. And if you see a member of our team, just like give them a big hug and appreciation, because they are doing a ton right now. And I just want to be really candid. Like, it's because there's humans and we don't have enough of them to do all the things we wish we could do.
And also, I would say, I love Indivisible National that we
Yes.
your co-executive directors are, and also we don't call the shots for everything that happens in this movement, and we're not the entirety of the effort out there. So one thing I will say very clearly to everybody who lives in New Jersey or who lives adjacent in New Jersey and is looking for some productive campaign activity, get involved in that gubernatorial election.
100%.
There is, I know we're talking about Proposition 50 in California a lot, which is the attempt to push back against the Texas redistricting and gerrymandering in other Republican states. I know we're talking about Virginia a lot. I know we're talking about the Pennsylvania Supreme Court race a lot. And also, I'm telling you, if you live in New Jersey, there is no better use of your electoral volunteer hour than getting the vote out for Cheryl in New Jersey. So go to the campaign directly if you need to. Find your other favorite local organization that is doing good volunteer work. Go there, volunteer there, recruit other people to do it. I like out-of-state voter contact. It has some value, but in-state voter contact by actual residents in that state, vastly more impactful. Tom asks, do you have plans for training peaceful protesters in how to isolate violent infiltrators and assist law enforcement in getting to them? If not, why not? It's going to happen in Portland. Leah, do you want to talk a little bit about our identifying and diffusing political violence trainings, our security trainings ahead of No Kings, and the work that we're doing on security?
Yeah. So here's what I would say. We take safety and security risks really seriously. We are a nonviolent movement. We have been since our founding. We are deeply grounded in those principles, and we want to make sure people have support in having having all of our organizing be peaceful and safe and nonviolent. We are doing a bunch of prep on security and de-escalation for folks who are planning No Kings events. If you are running one of those events, you will notice that it is even more intensive than it has been in the past. We are hearing from people who both really appreciate the support and who are also like, oh wow, this is a lot. This is a lot. That is great. That is not great. We think it's really important that everybody around the country be fully supported with the tools, the training that they need around security and de-escalation. This moment, we've been running trainings so far. We will continue to do so as we get closer to the 18th. In terms of like the specifics and content, I can't give you a ton of details, but I would just encourage you, if you are part of one of those planning teams, the trainings are open. Please do show up and please do register. You cannot have enough people who are trained up.
That's right. Nadine asks, thanks to America First Legal, a right-wing legal group founded by Trump's right-hand ghoul, Stephen Miller, the Election Assistance Commission is considering a rule making the would-be that would require prospective voters to provide proof of citizenship when registering to vote in national elections. I'm just going to skip. Comment deadline is October 20th. Why is this not getting a ton of publicity? Apparently, there's not been a really significant number of comments opposing the quote-unquote solution in search of a problem. Leah, thoughts on this specific attack on the right to vote?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'll take a step back and say that we've got a pretty clear understanding of the playbook and the plan for this administration heading into the midterms, right? They are going to issue this flurry of executive orders claiming powers that they do not have, just to be clear, on governing how voting is conducted, which is handled by the states and localities.
Yep.
They are going to try to kick up as much doubt about stuff like, around voter ID, around vote by mail, around early voting, to try to just kind of destabilize people's confidence in voting and in the system, to push a bunch of people into voting in person in places that are not necessarily prepared to support that at this point, and then to generate the fuel for legal challenges afterwards that will, allow them to basically uphold the results in the places that they want to uphold them and challenge them in the places where they want to challenge them. That's like the overarching playbook of what we are looking at. And so I would encourage us to understand any individual move within that broader playbook. Now, I think a bunch of this is first all going to play out in legal challenges, right? Because a lot of this is actually just about the intersection between the state's authorities and the state and localities authorities and the federal government, and what exactly they are claiming they have the authority to do via executive order when they could not pass the SAVE Act. So part of that I think is just that it's still in the the rulemaking and the back and forth stage. Definitely, commenting. Do you have much of a take on kind of comment, actors? I know we've got folks who've
I'm a
done.
former congressional staffer. I don't know how the admin works. I know people do comments. Do we think this regime cares about comments that much and it's going to influence their behavior? I think they're more likely to be stopped in court and stopped in the court of public opinion than they are because of comments, is my blunt take.
Okay.
So
Okay.
we've got to
But
stop them in court and the court of public opinion. We're not court folks. There are really good groups that are challenging unconstitutional behavior by this regime and winning again and again and again. We win in the court of public opinion. We organize by getting as many people out. And to be clear, this is illegal and unconstitutional. They are not allowed to do this. That doesn't mean they won't try. But the way you then beat them back is by either winning in court or mobilizing people against it.
Great.
S asked, how can we get Dems to coalesce into one strong opposition force? Everyone is still doing their own small voices against tyranny. We need Bernie and AOC to really take the lead, get Schumer and Jeffries on board, and really get louder than these awful false narratives that the GOP is clinging to, because that's what gives them power. How can we wake up the Dems and get them to unite on a solid strategy? S, welcome to the party. You're part of it. This is what we're pushing for. We need a unified opposition party. What is it, a Mark Twain quote? I belong to no organized political party. I'm a Democrat. That's a 100-year-old quote, maybe more. This is a constant challenge. And also, I think that the best way to build a unified opposition party is not, oh, it's Will Rogers. Thanks, David. Okay, Will Rogers. Thanks. The best way to build a unified opposition party is not in theory. It is not hypothetical. It is not philosophical. Most members of Congress are trying to get through the day, maybe the week they're going to get through. So you've got to organize on something that they can take action on now and say, we are all doing this thing now. Let's do it together. So if you're asking yourself, how do we build a unified opposition party? Currently, right now, on Friday, October 3rd, we more or less have that for the issue of the day, which is, do we fund the government with a Republican bill, or do we have clear popular demands and stay behind them? That is a concrete thing that either you're behind or you're not. So the way that you build that opposition party is Fetterman and Cortez Masto and King in Pennsylvania and Nevada and Maine need to have people in the streets this weekend saying, what the hell are you doing? Breaking from the opposition. This is embarrassing. You need to turn back. You've made your point. Now join the coalition. And all of the other Democrats need to get so much love.
Yeah.
These are politicians, y'all. Remember, they're politicians. What do they want? They want your love and applause and probably your money so that they can run for re-election again. Give them that. Tell them that you appreciate them. You want to build a unified opposition party? They're doing it now. Back them up. If we are always on the outside and we yell at them regardless of what they do, we're not organizing them into anything. When they do the right thing, we got to back them up.
That's
and
right.
now is the time to back them up.
Yeah. This isn't like rocket science, right? Like, if they do something you like, thank them, and you'll get more of it. Give them the support and they get more of it. If you do something that they don't like, they do something you don't like, let them know and try to get them to do less of it.
Look, I gotta say, I'm more hopeful than I've been in a while on this party. I was pretty pessimistic as of about a month ago that the Democrats would even name their demands. We spent much of August and September yelling at Schumer and Jeffries because we thought they were just going to cave immediately. They refused to name any clear demands. Then they named the demands. Let's celebrate that. Give them some positive reinforcement. I'll be first in line if they surrender. Trust me, we will be first in line. If they screw us again, The next stage is primary season, y'all. But for right now, we're making the play. Okay, Patty, what can we do to show our outrage at Google, YouTube, Alphabet for settling with Trump? For folks who weren't tracking, there was just a what $25 million payout from YouTube, I believe, to the regime. Leah, how do you view this with respect to the success we saw on Disney and how we're thinking of other kind of rapid response plays? There was another, for people who didn't see, Apple also just folded in some significant ways. There was an app that allowed people to track where ICE was in their neighborhood, and Apple took it off of the App Store. This just broke this morning, I believe.
Yeah.
So how are we thinking about immediate pushback?
Yeah. So I'm just going to be candid. The bottom line is like, we've got to get a tighter and more collective corporate strategy than what has been happening. And part of the challenge right now is like, it's pretty hard to like identify the good actors that you can support and move to as alternatives to some of this stuff. And so I'm going to be, I think the single biggest challenge that we face is particularly when it comes to kind of the media, the social platforms, the like web, the web content spaces, trying to figure out what is a strategy for exerting our collective power that doesn't necessarily just take us out of the conversation. That is the challenge that we are facing. And so I wish I mean, just candidly, like, cancel, if you got some Google products you can cancel them. If you can stop watching YouTube, then stop. Or if you're watching YouTube, stop watching YouTube. That stuff is fine and good, but collectively, we actually just need a sharper and tighter corporate strategy. We agree. We are working on it with folks, and also, I wish I had it for you, and I don't right now.
Yeah, I'm,
Like, I don't want to. I just don't want to say that we.
no, I know it's unsatisfying, and we're unsatisfied too.
Yeah.
If that's any consolation, we think we need to get better and faster at immediate response when we see this capitulation, because if you don't immediately respond in some way, and this is what worked with Disney, it was within hours there were events in the street again in Burbank and in New York against Disney, and that was effective, and the target was good, the actions were good, and it worked. And we need that.
Yeah. And some companies, just candidly, some companies have models that are easier to roll that out, right? Disney has affiliates all over the country. They have a beloved brand that's very visible, that has media properties attached to it that we all kind of can immediately care about and identify. They have a subscription that's cancelable. Not every company that is an enabler of the regime has that set of things. And so it is this mismatch of trying to find the places where there's leadership that's responsive and a business model that's really vulnerable to consumer pressure, and the people who are doing the things that are backing up the administration. So it's an ongoing challenge.
Hey, today is the International Day of Nonviolence. Every day is a day of nonviolence for me. As movements committed to nonviolent action, are you doing anything to get ahead of the administration's propaganda about the left and any protest at all as violent, except apparently for January 6th? I feel that they're using the recent high-profile acts of violence to bolster their lies and foment fear and anger. Would you agree we should avoid signs about ICE after the attack in Dallas? Should we be more demonstrative about our commitment to peace, non-cooperation, and if so, peaceful non-cooperation, and if so, how? We need to say peaceful and nonviolent every, I don't know, few minutes about what we're doing. In addition to saying those things, we need to demonstrate with our actions that we are committed to peaceful protest, that we are standing up for First Amendment rights. Say it again and again, demonstrate it with our actions again and again. To your point, to be clear, this is a regime led by a man who cheered on a violent insurrection at the Capitol. And then when he came back to power, took as one of his first actions pardoning the violent insurrectionists who attacked the Capitol. And then, weeks ago, when asked, was he worried about right-wing political violence, by far the most common form of political violence in this country, he said, and I quote, "I couldn't care less." When he attacks us or anybody else peacefully organizing is violent, we have to recognize that is bullshit. And it comes from a place of weakness, because the one thing he is scared about is peaceful, organized protest. And so the best thing that we can do to respond to this bullshit propaganda is to show up peacefully enforce and say, we're not going anywhere. We are growing in strength and we are standing up for our rights.
I also want to specifically address the like, would you agree we should avoid signs about ICE
Yes,
comment? Because
good.
I think this is really important to say directly. Look, 2 days ago, ICE landed helicopters on the building, on the top of an apartment building in Chicago, invaded the building, pulled naked children screaming out of the arms of their moms, and detained a bunch of people and marched off with them over the very, everybody in the entire city of Chicago. The leadership have made incredibly clear, governor, mayor, entire unified city council, very clear. None of this is wanted. Stay out of Chicago, hands off Chicago. It is your constitutional right to say that that is morally abhorrent. It is your constitutional right to protest what is happening, what is being done in our country to families who belong here. Okay. And I think it's really important that we not like step away from that, because again, we are not in the business of complying in advance. We have the right to say that what is being done here is wrong, and we're going to show up and keep doing it.
Peacefully protest
Peacefully.
ICE. Everywhere you can, peacefully protest ICE. They are a secret police force terrorizing American communities. They are the largest federal law enforcement agency in the history of the Republic that answer to a would-be authoritarian ruler of this country. You have constitutional rights to oppose that. You can peacefully organize and make your point heard. And you know what? Most of the country agrees with you. They are trying to scare you away, and they are trying to make it look like the quote unquote smart thing to stop pushing back against their secret police force. Fuck that. We are organizing in force and peacefully against that.
I think that's a pretty good point to let people go, because it is.
Oh, it is 4 o'clock. It's 4 o'clock, y'all.
Yeah.
I feel like this
Friday has a little bit of a different vibe. It's like we're letting you go for the weekend.
yeah.
Go forth.
I feel like I was a little bit more serious in this
Yeah.
one. But I'm feeling good. I'm sorry, y'all, that we had the late schedule mishap. That's on mostly me. Just to give you all a heads up, next week, so that's October 10th on Friday, we're doing again. So not next Thursday as it would normally be. October 10th, we will then return to our regularly scheduled programming of 3 p.m. Eastern time on Thursdays. That was the plan, more or less. We will see you for the plan next week. Hopefully, we will be celebrating the brilliant leadership of a unified Democratic caucus against ridiculous Republican demands. And we will be celebrating an even bigger number of groups and registrations for No King's Day for October 18th. Until then, stay safe, keep peacefully organizing in defense of our democracy. We certainly will be on our end. See you next week.